I am responsible for this action, the Commons Assessment Method for Standards and Specifications. And this is our first webinar on a series of webinars that we are going to launch, disseminating knowledge on CAMSS. Let me please go to the next slide. This is the agenda for today's webinar. We are going to address first what is the motivation, some short introduction. We will move then to the different solutions that we have under the chapeau of CAMSS and what is the strategic positioning. I will kindly ask the attendees not to ask questions during the interventions, but to hold them, if possible, to the Q&A section. And then finally, we have a nice interactive moment where we will ask for your opinions. Next slide, please. Motivation. Next slide, please. In essence, the motivation for this webinar is coming from a mature solution. So that there is, I would like to make this clear. I mean, CAMSS has been around for many years. It has been used for assessing standards and specifications, and in essence, this has been operational and working for internally in the Commission, for example, with GROW in the context of the multi-stakeholder platform, but on other contexts as well. So we have a mature solution, and the motivation here is as basically to increase the dissemination of the key concepts behind our value proposition, then to give an enough sufficient overview on what are the different solutions under the umbrella of this CAMSS label, and then to show how CAMSS supports our coming Interoperable Europe Act, basically. Okay, so in this context, we are in a very dynamic context like data spaces, etc. All these things are to be considered, and therefore we have a strategic positioning. I would also suggest, retaking my comment about that we will kindly ask you to refrain your questions, comments until the end, but also you are free to put them on the chat. So the team will be following the chat and capturing them live. Could you please move to the next slide? And in essence, this is the roadmap, the suggested webinars that we can offer to you. We are in 01, where we are. This is the nature of this session is onboarding, basically, but then we plan to offer you how to assess interoperability of a standard on a specification. This is what has the number 02, a second session, which is the EIF scenario. And then another is how do we do formal machine readable validations using testbed, basically two validators. We have one for the European Library of Architectural Principles, and then we have another one for ELIS, and so just be aware about that. Then we would like to address vocabularies that we have under CAMSS, which are two, basically the core standards and specifications vocabulary, review and supervised by NATO, and then the common assessments vocabulary. So those are basically the core vocabularies guiding how to describe a standard or specification and how to describe the assessment. And finally, the ERA library of interoperability specification, which is very highly valuable a solution providing a mapping between the existing assessments of standards and specifications and our wonderful European interoperability reference architecture. ELIS does the mapping basically between that. And with that, I will give the floor to Esteban. Esteban, please take the floor and drive us to a success. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I will give the introduction of this new CAMSS webinar. So to start, it is very important. CAMSS stands for Common Assessment Method for Standards and Specifications, as some of you already know. Therefore, when we talk about CAMSS, it is very important to talk about to know what is a standard and what is a specification. In the slide, you can see the difference, actually. While a specification is a documentation of a precise requirement or set of requirements that are needed for the implementation of a solution, but which is not necessarily a standard. A standard, in turn, is a specification that has reached a certain maturity and widespread adoption and is recognized as the most appropriate current solution that is agreed upon a recognized authority. When we talk of authority, actually, most usually will be a standard development organization or SDO, as it is commonly called, such as ISO, IETF, the World Wide Web Consortium, ETSI, OICs, and many more, which are mainly formed by working groups devoted to the development and maintenance of a single specification. Having said that, what is CAMSS? So to understand CAMSS, what is the common assessment method for standards and specifications, we need to take a look at the context and the kind of identified needs. First of all, the project was conceived in the context of a broader need amongst European entities and institutions to digitize and make more interoperable cross-border digital public services. That is where the ISA 2 program took place, which was later replaced by the Digital Europe program, who is the funding institute that made possible the CAMSS action. It is in the same time that the European Interoperability Framework, on which we will talk later on, appears as a reference framework and has the purpose of also kind of laying the foundation for creating interoperable digital public services. Moreover, CAMSS is also based and inspired on the European Interoperability Reference Architecture project, from which there are some solutions that complement it. So in this scenario, it becomes fundamental to generate tools to overcome digital barriers and also to provide ways to plan architectures for interoperability. And also, which is very important, to avoid vendor lock-in and in turn provide open source alternatives for the standards and specifications and overall ecosystem of solutions. These key needs are the ones that in first place gave birth to CAMSS as a guide for the assessment and selection of standards and specifications for e-government projects, taking as a reference also the needs and requirements set out by the European Interoperability Framework. Going forward, what is really interoperability? Interoperability can be defined as the ability to exchange and share information and data between ICT systems. Well, this in the ICT context, actually. Thus, as we are now seeing, interoperability is actually needed due to the growing amount of information exchanges between public services. One essential thing we have to also bear in mind is that without standards, of which we have talked now, it is very difficult to reach interoperability. given that, as we have seen, they generate consensus and common agreements for the use of certain solutions and protocols in ICT contexts. In this sense, we can state that CAMSS, given that it is in part based on the EIF, provides support for the specific interoperability needs, covering different phases of the analysis and design process of digital public services and solutions, as well as project implementing digital public services. Well, this taking into account that selecting the appropriate technical and semantic or organizational specifications is very important for the delivery of seamless interoperability. Moreover, it is also aligned with the Interoperable Europe initiative, which covers some of the aspects mentioned by the European Interoperable Europe Act. Then, the European Interoperability Framework, which is very important, taking into account that CAMSS is basically based on this framework. As we have seen, is envisaged as one of the common denominators of the European interoperability policies in member states. It gives a total of 47 recommendations, which are based on the 12 principles that drive interoperability actions. On the other hand, the EIF also defines 4 different layers, which are needed to reach the multifaceted interoperability, which are the technical layer, which is the CAMSS is very related to as we assess ICT standards, and refers to the interface specifications or maybe interconnection services, data integration services, and so on. And the semantic layer, which ensures the precise format and meaning of exchange data and information and its preservation also throughout exchanges between parties, as well as the legal layer, facilitating the work between organizations operating under different legal frameworks, and the organizational layer, which means documenting and integrating or maybe aligning business processes and relevant information exchange. To finalize with, as we see in the slide, CAMSS actually offers a structured approach for the assessment of ICT standards and specifications against the EIF principles and layers. As well as we will see in the next and the explanation of the solutions, it also can facilitate the selection of standards and specifications by organizations and, well, any public institution who wants to create a public service. Now, we were going to, with the help of Hector Rico, we will take a closer look at the CAMSS solutions.
Yes, so thank you, Esteban, for the introduction. Now we are going to explain in each one of the solutions that CAMSS maintains. We can go to the next slide, Esteban, please. In this slide, we are going to do an overview of the different solutions that CAMSS maintains. The first of all is the CAMSS assessment scenarios, which is a self-assessment tool that allows to perform CAMSS assessments. Then we have the CAMSS assessment, which are the outcome of performing those assessments using the tool. We have also the CAMSS as a service, which is the service that CAMSS offers to perform on-demand assessments according to the user's needs. We have also the ELIS, which is a collection of specifications associated with AIRA architecture building blocks. And afterwards, we will see the core vocabulary, which are the core standard and specification vocabulary, which is used to define describe and define specifications. Also, the core assessment vocabulary, which defines what an assessment is and the different components. And last, we will see the CAMSS LAB and the validator that we've been performing lately. This is a library with architecture principles that guides the implementation of interoperability solutions. So we can move forward, Esteban, to the first solution. So as mentioned, the first solution is the CAMSS assessment EAF scenario. This is a tool that allows the assessment and evaluation of the compliance from specification against the European Interoperability Framework, and then helps to select the best specification according to specific purposes. Underneath this CAMSS assessment scenario, we have two main components, which is the tool in itself, which is hosted on uSurvey. The screenshot that you can see in the right side of the slide is where the different criteria and categories are hosted, and then the users can leverage themselves to respond and perform the assessments. And this is also used by the CAMSS teams. And we have also the assessment methodology, which explains and introduces the different criteria according to EIF and how them should be answered. This EIF scenario is based and depicts the EIF scenario principle, the 12 of them, and consists of 45 criteria, which are split between the different principles of the EIF. The outcome, as I already mentioned, of these assessments, of performing assessment with the EIF scenario, are the CAMSS assessments, which I'll introduce right now. CAMSS assessments are the result of performing assessments using the CAMSS assessment EIF scenario. These assessments are publicly available in JoinUp. The assessments include two main aspects, which are the report, where a summary of the results of those assessments is presented together with the scores of the assessment or by category and the overall score. We have also the assessment itself, which is presented in PDF format, extracted from the tool, where the whole assessment can be read and consulted. In here, there are all the criteria with all the answer and justifications to the criteria. Once we have those assessments, we have an asset that is called CAMSS Assessment Library that contains the different assessments that the CAMSS teams perform, but also the assessments that has been gathered from CAMSS as a service. In this library, there can be found different scenarios because it has been published since the CAMSS action started. But mainly now you will find EIF scenario assessments. So we can move forward, Stefan. Yeah, so as mentioned, the library contains CAMSS as a service outcomes. The CAMSS as a service is the service that the CAMSS action offers to the users for performing assessments on demand. For that purpose, we have three different modalities. We have the CAMSS assessment, where the user requests to the CAMSS team the performance of a specific standard or specification according to their needs. Then we have the CAMSS content review, where the users request the review of an assessment that they have performed previously, and then the CAMSS team reviews the content. And then the last modality that we have is the CAMSS compliance review. In this modality, what we do is review the assessment that has been provided by the users and its accordance to the CAMSS methodology in each scenario. But now mainly we are focused on the EIF scenario. So having said that, we can move to the next solution. This solution that we are going to present is ELIS, which stands for EIRA Library of Interoperability Specifications. The purpose of this library is to support the member states on the creation of interoperability digital public services. This provides the association between standards and specifications and the EIRA, the European Interoperability Reference Architecture building blocks. So technically, the ELIS is built on the EIRA taxonomy and the CAMSS vocabularies. From the EIRA, we take the architecture building blocks, and from the vocabularies that CAMSS has developed, we have the core standard and specification that is used to describe the different standard and specifications that are included in the ELIS, and also the assessment vocabulary that is used to describe and include the content from the different assessment performed. The ELIS includes standards and specifications that have been assessed and specifications that not. The process, once we assess specifications for the specification to keep being recommended in the ELIS catalog, it needs to reach a threshold against the compliance on the EIF, which is a 75%. If the specification doesn't reach that level, it is not included anymore in the ELIS. So this is the ELIS, as I said previously, aims to support the creation of interoperability solutions based on supporting architects on modeling their solutions. For that purpose, it is exposed through the cartography tool, which is maintained by the EIRA action. At that point, basically what the users can do with that is check if the ABPs that they are implemented have any recommended specification and then select from there the specification that better fits their needs. So this is the summary of the ELIS library, the ELIS. So we can move forward to the vocabularies. As I explained, the CAMSS vocabularies are the basis for the development of the ELIS. But I'll explain a bit more the function of each one. First of all, we have the common assessment vocabulary. This vocabulary represents and defines how assessments are to be developed and the components that are part of them. And it is interesting to remark that this vocabulary is domain agnostic, meaning that it can be used at different domains and serve as the guide for implementing assessment methods. The other element that serves as basis for the ELIS is the core standards and specifications vocabulary. This vocabulary is intended to describe standards and specification and the different attributes they have, and include them as machine readable and allowing to exchange the information from the different specifications. So, as introduced in the ELIS slide, both are key elements for the development of the library and can be reused as they are domain specific. So I think that we can move to the last but not least solution, which is the ELAP, which stands for European Library of Architecture Principles. This library of principles has the purpose of supporting the process of analyzing and design existing or new public services and solutions. It allows to show how the principles and its reasoning interacts with the creation and of the different solutions. And for that reason, it propose and serve as support on the decision making process when modeling and creating solutions. At the right side of the slide, you can see how it is represented. The ELAP in an Archimate model, which is included for everyone to know in the AIRA as part of the modeling process. And during this last contract, we've been working on the ELAP validator, which works together with ELAP and serves as a quality control on the development of the solutions and digital public services. As I already mentioned with the ELAP, it ensures and guides the decision-making process. Also works to ensure the policy compliance and endorsement, and includes the automation and efficiency control on the process. It is relevant to mention that it has been implemented using the interoperability testbed, and the solution architects can validate if their models are following the different guidelines established for implementing architecture principles. The lab validator and the guidelines for using it will be available soon, so you can check it and use it for your developments. So we have here all the solutions presented. So I leave the floor to Juan Carlos for presenting the strategic positioning of CAMSS.
Okay, so many thanks, Hector, for the explanation of the different CAMSS solutions. So now it's time to explain to you the strategic positioning of CAMSS regarding interoperability. So if we move to the next slide, Esteban. Okay. So here, what we have represented in this slide and the next one is how CAMSS is contributing to the new Interoperable Europe Act. So first of all, we have to understand that the Interoperable Europe Act is an adoption made by the European Commission with the goal to be a regulation. And the objective of it is to promote the cross-border interoperability of network and information systems that are used to provide or manage public services in Europe. So basically here we have the different articles where CAMSS is contributing with the method, but also with the different solutions. So first of all, we have the Article 3 of the Interoperable Europe Act that is related to the interoperability assessment. So here CAMSS supports the interoperability assessment by providing a structured method for assessing and selecting standards and specifications, as my colleague already explained with the CAMSS assessment EIF scenario and its methodology for the assessment. But CAMSS also helps in evaluating the compatibility of different solutions with interoperability requirements that is outlined in Article 3. Regarding the Article 6, which is related to the European Interoperability Framework and Specialized Interoperability Frameworks, this article emphasizes the alignment with the European Interoperability Framework and collaboration with specialized frameworks. CAMSS, as the common assessment method, ensures selected standards that adhere to EIF principles in order to promote cooperation with specialized frameworks, and supports interoperability assessments outlined in this article 3 that I already mentioned. It acts, CAMSS also it acts as a crucial guide for standards and specifications in achieving interoperability objectives. In relation to the Article 8, which is about what is about the Interoperable Europe portal, we say the CAMSS aligns with this Article 8 by serving as a systematic method for the identification and recommendation of interoperability specifications that thereby supports the goals of cross-border interoperability. Then we have the Article 9, which is about the policy implementation support project. So CAMSS might be used in policy implementation support projects to guide public sector bodies in selecting standards and specifications that align with the interoperability goals defined in this new Interoperable Europe Act. If we move to the next slide, Esteban. Yes, so here we have the Article 15, where we say that CAMSS support the objective of Article 15 by offering a structured and collaborative approach to standards assessments, aligning with the governance and decision-making processes of the Interoperable Europe board. Article 6 related to the Interoperable Europe community. CAMSS, the method aligns with the Article 16 by providing a structured approach of standards assessments and selection, making its users valuable contributors to the Interoperable Europe community. In fact, CAMSS users can actively engage in community activities, fostering collaboration and knowledge exchange in the pursuit of cross-border interoperability. And finally, and the last one, the last article of the Interoperable Europe Act where CAMSS contributes is the Article 19, and is related to the Interoperable Europe agenda. So CAMSS aligns with this article by providing a systematic and cost-effective method for standards assessments, offering valuable input during public consultations and contributing to the strategic priorities outlined in the Interoperable Europe agenda. So that's all regarding the strategic positioning. So